Hello, guys. Welcome to Tech Detonator Show. Our today's guest is David Peters. He is the CEO of Construction Club. Let me give you some backstory on him. So he jumped into construction business when he was 20. Currently, he is 37. So he was renovating homes for people. Later, he moved to Manitoba in 2015. Lastly, he was renovating cottages for people. Now, then he thought that he was impacting only hundreds of families. It was small for him, so he wanted to impact thousands of people. So he jumped into a tech startup named Construction Clock. He started this journey around almost 16 months back, and since then, he has been into the startup journey. I'll give him the chance to give the backstory about Construction Clock.
Doing very well. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast today. I'm excited to tell my story to all of your followers.
What is Construction Clock?
So, Construction Clock is a hands-free time tracking app for construction businesses. And basically, what that means is that construction companies of all sizes can eliminate paper timesheets, eliminate manual entry time tracking apps, and use our app. And it works in the background of their business. So it's constantly clocking employees in and out of projects based on their geolocation. And the best part is they never have to open the app. They don't even need to take out their phone. The app just works in the background and it knows exactly how many hours you work on every site. And we are the first company to introduce this in time tracking, and we started about 16 months ago. So I would call ourselves a very new company in the startup space, but we are growing quickly and we're making an impact globally now. We're in 7 countries, and we have impacted a lot of construction companies in their way they track time.
So you said it's a first hands-free time tracking app. Would you like to explain how it works in detail?
Yeah, so the entire time tracking um, is all done the same. It's manual entry time tracking, um, and it requires somebody to take out their phone and clock in, and there might be some GPS, so it pulls your location. But every single day, every single user inside of a company needs to pull out their phone and manually clock in and manually clock out at the end of the day. So you have to remember twice when you're starting work and when you're ending work that you have to clock in and out. And that is our big differentiator, is that we completely eliminate that entire process for all employees, and it works 100% effectively. So that is our big differentiator. Yeah, so it sounds extremely easy. You create a geofence and somebody walks into it and it clocks them in and clocks them out when they leave. And in reality, it's actually incredibly difficult. We had to build this app entirely differently for Apple and for Android phones because they operate geofence completely differently. And so the way the technology works is you're placing a geofence around a project, and it is constantly tracking that phone. I think on Android it checks every 2 minutes, and it's checking to see when that phone is inside of a project. Outside of that project, we do not track people. So I think that's it's important for people to know, like, breadcrumbing is not the way that we're tracking somebody's data. We do it differently, where we're basically doing an API call to check to see if somebody is on a project for that specific company, and if they are, then we clock them into that project, and then when we check and they've left, then it automatically clocks them out. I think on Apple it checks it quite often, and on Android it checks it either between every 30 seconds or maybe every 2 minutes. So that's how the technology works.
As you said, you knew the industry, so you also would have assumed how workers are going into uh, the reaction of this app, as it just makes a time theft for them difficult. Majority of level 1 workers think they are at the bottom of the food chain, which sometimes results into a time theft unintentionally.
Yeah, so I think we knew back then what we still know now, which is that owners would love our solution and employees would hate our solution. I actually don't think that the workers are at the bottom of the food chain. I think that in today's construction industry, the workers have a lot of leverage because they are so in demand. If you're a hardworking tradesperson who's honest and dependable and consistently showing up, construction companies want you and they are willing to pay you extremely well for your time and for your knowledge. And so I think that what our app does is it separates all of the workers that just want to get into this industry to make some money and think that it's an easy job and can kind of take advantage of an industry that needs construction workers. And it does a really good job of paying employees really well for being honest, dependable, and consistent tradespeople. And I think what our app does is it proves who those people are. We're a time tracking app, so we know when people are working and we know how consistently they're showing up. And if you are an honest, dependable worker, your timesheet is almost a form of a resume for you, and you can take that to any company and you can show them that you are somebody of character who wants to be in the trades and wants to do good work. And I've never actually really thought about it like that, but you could honestly just export your entire timesheet from a company and that could be a resume for you of all of the projects that you've done. It does a really good job of validating who you are as a worker.
Amazing. Never thought like that before. That's a great insight for construction workers, exporting timesheet to beat their resume.
Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, actually, I don't think they are bottom of the food chain. I mentioned that because I wanted to segue into the another question that is currently an existential crisis in every industry of the world. So what happens is the lowest paid associates, who I think entrepreneurs know that best, that they are the most important and valued part and segment of their entire industry, company, entire structure. But when the people themselves, some people do not understand that actually it is important, and if they think and take it as granted, they always think that yeah, I'm at the bottom and I don't have the profit much more than my seniors. But the reality is, as you go higher, the workload is increased tenfold,
Yeah.
and there is more hours to be put in honest way.
Yeah.
So if you are an honest worker, you can climb up the food chain easier than the others. The only thing is the consistency, as you said, and I guess less than 10% of people are consistent and honest with their work 100% of times.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to make people honest about their work, I think. And nowadays every technology is doing that they are filtering out the best people
Yeah.
in their industry with the form of every type of technology that's coming out.
Correct.
And so moving on to the next point with the workers, automation technology is coming in, right? So do you think that later on definitely there will be workers replaced by the bots? Not completely, but there is some chance, definitely there is some chance that people can imagine that. So if the workers are replaced by the bots, what do you see a long-term model of your company? How are you going to shift with that automation shift? Definitely not immediately, but 10 years down the line, there will be a real possibility of that.
Yeah, so I think the automation of AI and machine learning and whatnot will really only affect white collar work. If we're talking about construction, it doesn't affect tradespeople at all. And so, as a tech founder, it affects our industry like crazy because we are embracing AI and machine learning. And in 10 years, every tech company will have to use it and will want to use it. So I think that's one of the great things about getting into tech now is that you can build an MVP in a fraction of the time and a fraction of the cost that it would have taken 10 years ago. You would have used to spend maybe a couple $100,000 to build out an MVP, and now you can do it for a couple $1,000 using AWS and Swift and all these amazing tools that are out there. And it can be some guy in his basement building out an MVP and putting it out there. So we are in an amazing time now. I couldn't have been happier to join tech in the last 2 years, given how fast this entire industry is moving. But in construction, automation looks very differently. Bots will not take over construction in my lifetime because it just requires people in the field being educated, and they will use software tools, automation tools, but primarily they will use their experience as well as these tools to do their jobs better. And I feel like the construction industry is a very safe industry to get into nowadays if you're looking for job security.
Okay. I still have my beliefs that obviously because not only ChatGPT has come sooner than imagined, but I think it's exponentially speeding up the process of AI into our futures. So the thing that we have imagined 50 years later, I think it's coming quarter of time sooner. So maybe 15 years, maybe sooner. So I think definitely there will be workers and they can be trained. The models can be trained. How I'm looking at the different kind of models trained. How Elon Musk is improving his technology. Every other tech founder, maybe take big companies. Everybody is improving their tech form, and I think it will be sooner.
But if you look at all those industries, there's still thousands of employees inside all those factories. I think they embrace technology and they use technology. It still requires smart people
Definitely
to do the work. It will be very interesting with when you're talking about physical robots. I think they can be trained to do some incredible things probably in the next decade or two. And I think when you're talking about repeatable tasks, those robots will be incredible for that. Construction is not really a repeatable task. So that's where I feel like it's a lot more difficult to break into there. Manufacturing, 100%. I think that it will disrupt certain industries far more than others.
Definitely. Yeah, no doubt construction has different challenges every time. So definitely there will be people who are handling the AI. So my perspective is about entire industry is that they won't remove the entire set of employees. That's the main fear that everybody is getting into, but it's not that. That's what I also want to make people aware that it's not that. If you are skilled in your work, nobody can replace you, even AI. The only thing is you have to be vital with the change. You have to embrace it.
Yeah.
Every technology, you have to accept it. You have to revolve yourself every time the new technology comes in. So I think only the people who are not changing themselves, evolving, will be replaced. And the number of employees required might be reduced to certain number, but definitely not entire replacement.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's go to the next part. So when you started, how was the process of funding in Canada, and how did you get to it? What is the structure? What is the process? Can you educate us about that?
Funding in Canada is a challenge. I think one of the benefits I had is at my age, I could fund some of it at the start. And I was connected well enough that I could go out and raise some money from friends and family. Maybe a little bit harder to do if you're, a young person just with an idea. So for myself, it has always been a challenge to fundraise, and it continues to be a challenge. And I would say that at every stage you get to in your company, we would consider ourselves seed stage right now. It does not get easier. Canada is a difficult place to raise money in, and you have to be creative. And for us, one of the things that we did is we just leveraged Manitoba investors. And so we went out to Manitoba and we said, look, we're this up and coming tech company in Manitoba, and you should invest in it. And it started right when we started Construction Clock by winning Startup TNT's summit. That was our first investment from Manitoba investors. And then from there, we got the Manitoba Venture Capital Tax Credit. And then we started raising money, and our investors were able to get a tax credit from that. And so that was a creative way that we were able to raise money, and we continue to raise money that way.
Okay. So raising money certainly brings me to this intersection. There are two ways to scale your company. One is like dissolving more of your part into the company.
Yeah.
Getting big funds, scale 10x times faster. Or the other way is to scale with your quality slowly and not diluting much of your portions from the company.
Yeah, so I would say that the first example you gave is not happening nearly as much in tech anymore. Venture capital is looking for companies that have an established route to profitability. I mean, it's 2024, so in 2021 it was very different. But building a scalable tech company with a route to profitability as a Canadian tech company is the probably, in my opinion, the best way to grow your company. That first option that you suggested isn't really an option for most companies. It's not an option for us. We can't just go out and raise a bunch of money and scale quickly, because investors have done that for the last decade, and it worked out. A very small amount of the time. And so they are learning that they are making way more calculated bets now into companies. And so I think it's really good that we went through that, because now you've got really great companies that are growing like us, growing steady and slowly, and not scaling or trying to scale at 100% month over month and trying to keep up with all of this growth and deploying capital because you have it. I'm actually really glad that we're in this position where we're growing steady.
What would you define your steady month-on-month growth rate? Can you disclose that?
Yeah, so we grow about 19% month over month. And so everybody on our team can handle that. It allows us to make decisions for the next couple months instead of having to make decisions for the next couple weeks. So, a year from now, we will be double our size. But I think people that want to grow 100% month over month don't realize all of the growing pains involved in that. And so we are very happy to maintain 19% month over month. That is a very nice growth rate for us.
So are you into profitability with this rate right now, or are you like break even, or it's still making towards the route of profitability?
We're going to be profitable later this year. It's hard to know exactly when, but by summer or fall, we plan on hitting profitability. And there again, that is a huge feat for a startup tech company that's our age. We're not even a year and a half old, and that meant that we had to make many sacrifices in our company. But we could see the writing on the wall that we weren't going to raise a bunch of capital by deploying it and having a huge burn rate. So we have been very lean. We have an incredible team, but we are a small team, and we're just careful to not spend money in ways that aren't growing our top line revenue.
Amazing. So we're gonna later now dive into this team building, because I think it's one of the most important parts. How you can save funds, you can reduce a burn rate, because some people have a team size of 15 their first year, and resulting into the burn rate and dealing the profitability to 5 years stage. So being in profitable stage within the first 5 years itself is a big feat you have achieved. So congrats on that. And due to that, what do you believe is your investor relationship because of your process? What is your investor relationship? How do you maintain them?
So at the start, I don't think that we did a great job of investor relations because we were so busy building our product. And so as a founder, you get so caught up in trying to build this great product, and you've raised money and you've put all of your own money into the company, and the focus is just purely on just acquiring customers. And what you realize over time is that that you need to nurture those relationships far more. And for us, it meant that we went from sending an update every quarter to now we send an update every month to all of our investors and all of our interested investors. Anybody that's interested in investing in us, we send them an update once a month on our progress. And I think if I could tell myself anything, it would be that focusing on product and acquiring customers at the beginning is very important. And you also need to manage those relationships with your investors, because they are your lifeline at the beginning. And I, not even at the beginning, they're your lifeline probably the entire time. And they've taken so much risk at the beginning that I feel like sending an update once a month and having an open line of communication with your investors is pretty important. And I think we as a company, or myself as a founder, could have done a better job of that at the beginning. I mean, we made mistakes at the start, and now we're trying to do a way better job of maintaining that.
Perfect. So let's go to the team building thing. So the Peter Thiel philosophy. So he was the founder of the PayPal. His team building philosophy was a bit like you ask one person, who you find one of the best persons, you ask him to give the names of the 10 best persons he think are the better workers than him, or are the best workers near to his skill set. And they ended up hiring 8 out of those 10 people. And that's how they build up the entire PayPal mafia, they call the entire startup mafia that started in the US a decade or 2 decades ago. So what is your philosophy about the team building?
Yeah, so I know that Peter Thiel philosophy of hiring, it's pretty easy to have a philosophy like that when you live in the best place in the world for hiring tech talent. So in southern Manitoba, where we are a fairly new tech community, you have to hire very differently. You can't hire people with a tremendous amount of experience because they are already working for larger tech companies. And so I feel one thing that we did very right in our company is we hired young people that had some experience, but they had more desire to build. And they had a real desire to work for a small company. And I think that was, I'm thinking about everyone that we've hired at our company, is that we never shied away from the fact that we're a tiny little company that's brand new and that is our superpower. And then we attracted people that wanted to work in that environment. So we would have people come to us and say, look, I finished university and I'm looking for my first role. And we would hire people like that, not because they had the experience, but because they had the amount of passion for it. And I'm very proud to say that most of those people are still working for us. So I think the one thing that Peter Thiel, I think he said, he's like, you have to want to be able to go out and have a beer with them after work. I think that was what they. There's a likability in your team that has to be there, and I definitely feel like that's true. You spend more time with your team, especially us as a small tech company, and we work in the office here. You spend so much time with them that it's almost like a relationship like you have with your partner, but you have it with 10 people, and that culture has to be really strong, and it has to be with people that like hanging out with each other, because they call each other out on mistakes and issues, and it's really tough. And so I think it's my job to hire people that really want to work in a company like this. And then when they get into the environment and they're working with the team, I think it's really important for them to get along with each other. So I would definitely agree with certain aspects of Peter Thiel's philosophy. But as a startup company in Southern Manitoba, you have to look at your environment and hire accordingly. And I feel like that's what we did right at the beginning.
Obviously, yeah. So put into short words, when you are a startup and you want to scale at a steady and slow rate, but at a successful scalability in a longer run of time, you need to initially have the people who have the hunger to grow with you in the same field, right?
Yeah.
So have you thought about a handbook, employee handbook for when you will scale globally? Have you thought about that?
I mean, that like the idea of an employee handbook scares me, because that will mean that we're at a certain size that where we won't all know each other by name.
Exactly.
And it's almost like super corporate. It almost like grosses me out a little bit to think about being that corporate of a company. I know that day will come. We are not there yet, and I hope we're not there for a while. Maybe we're the company that never does an employee handbook. Seems impossible, but I would love to build a company where you are never required to hand out an employee handbook. That would be a cool company to build.
But I wish you scale at that amount. And if you scale at that amount, the realistic possibilities you won't be able to reach and pass on this culture to every corner of your company. So you would need some basic set. So let's discuss what are the 3 sets you would love always to be present in your company culture.
So I just built out. I've been working on our vision, mission, and values for probably a year now, and they've just been like something that I've had on my computer, and I just ironed out what our values were, and the 3 things are to always keep it simple. So you can, especially in tech, you can get super complicated with how
difficult you make different features and whatnot. And us as a company, because of who our customer is a late adopter to technology. We always talk about how to keep it simple. And I think we try and do that in our entire company. Everything that we do, we're keeping it simple. The second thing is time is money. So understanding that we have to move quickly, and just being inefficient is just not one of the things that we do as a company, especially nowadays when every company has to be lean and you hear about layoffs everywhere. So time is money. And then the third one is integrity. And I think the biggest thing with integrity is being able to depend on each other as a team. And so one of the things that I love is the idea of teams never getting larger than being able to feed them with 2 boxes of pizza. I think this is like a Jeff Bezos thing. And so I always want to have small teams, and the way that you have small teams work effectively is if everybody on that team has integrity and they all depend on each other. And I think that those are the 3 things that I want to keep in our company forever.
Perfect. So there is one last question about the company. I would address it as, what is the revenue model you follow?
Yeah, so our revenue model has kind of shifted from the beginning. We used to charge based on the size of the company, and then it moved over to per user basis. And I know that there's a big trend towards usage-based revenue model where I just got another email about that another one of the softwares that we use is moving from a monthly fee per user or per seat over to a usage-based. And so right now it's per seat. So if a small construction company has 5 employees, we charge per employee. And that is our revenue model now. And one day that might change, but I think like keeping it simple is like, that's the most efficient way for us to do it. So we charge $10 US per employee per month. You might ask why we charge in US dollars, and that's just kind of how the entire tech world does things, is everyone charges in US dollars. And so we did that. We don't charge $9.99. We just charge $10 per employee per month. And that is that's our revenue model right now.
Perfect. So these are the last 4 questions I always ask a leader.